What's going on, everybody? Welcome to week 6 of the Athlete to Athlete Game Changer series. I'm so excited to have you all on tonight. We got a very, very great group, amazing group of panelists that are going to be sharing with you all about recruiting. But before we get started, I always love to do a little icebreaker to get you guys engaged. I know it's been a long day for most of you all. Some of you athletes are just getting off of practice. Some of you coaches are just getting done as well. So what I like to start with is just having you all just post your school or post your title, post your school, where you're tuning in from, what city, what state. And then if you want to share what you want to learn tonight, we'd love to hear that. So go ahead and get in that chat box and let us know your school, your title, where you're tuning in from, something that you're hoping to learn tonight. So we will get started in a couple minutes after we see a few people in our chat boxes. Address us, tell us where you at, where you represented from. Okay, we got a linebacker on here, senior linebacker. I'm excited, man. Thomas Warren. Thomas, where you from, man? What high school you out of? All right, Mary Persons High School, Forsyth, Georgia. Love it, love it. Okay. Amy, welcome. Amy Parrish is on tonight. Who else we got on here? Let us know your school, your title. Okay, we got somebody from Greensboro, North Carolina, James B. Dudley. He didn't give us the title, but it's all good. All right. James Perez, tuning in from San Antonio, Texas, O'Connor High School. Let us know what position you play if you're an athlete or if you're a coach. Let us know. Winter Park High School, University of Florida, living in Atlanta, Georgia. Awesome. Welcome. Renee's one of our panelists. Tuning in from Central Florida, Zach Fry, Jr., offensive tackle out of Northwestern Lehigh, Pennsylvania. Everett Roden, water polo. Okay, that's one thing. I can't swim, so you're gonna have to give me some advice after that. Huntington Beach, California. Okay, Jamestown High School, baseball. Great. Williamsburg, Virginia. Amy Parrish, West Georgia. Hoping to stay dry from Zeta. Okay. Logan Hickman, sophomore QB. Awesome. Glad you're on here tonight. Logan, sophomore D lineman, James Perez. Okay. Todd Gerlich, Evan Poosh, Ridge in Tucson. Okay, all the way out. Wow. Okay. Elena Grimm, Boyertown area, senior high, forward field hockey. Another sport I've never played, Charles Perry, AD. I think Charles has been on before. He's been one of our past winners. Mary Persons High School. Okay, we got a lot of great people. I'm not going to go down the list, but everybody, welcome to another episode of the Athletes to Athlete series. My name is Rennie Curran. For those of you all who don't know me, I'm a former professional athlete, played at the University of Georgia, the Tennessee Titans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, went up to Canada as well with the Edmonton Eskimos and BC Lions. I'm also now a full-time keynote speaker, author, and the CEO of Game Changer Coaching. And I want to officially welcome you all. This is our 6th week. So we've talked about everything from having a championship mindset to knowing how to be a great leader, to overcoming adversity and building mental toughness. We've just been talking about a lot of great topics. And first thing I want to discuss is why we are here, right? So I recently launched my first foundation called the Game Changers Foundation. And our mission is to help current and former athletes in sports, business, and life. And we do that through 3 ways. We do it through community engagement, through mentorship, and through professional development. So our whole goal is to have former athletes, experts, those in the community who are pouring back into the next generation. And hopefully, as we build the next generation, they can kind of turn around and do the same thing. So because of COVID, we're planning on originally having former athletes who are going into different high schools, speaking and inspiring the next generation, also offering mentorship through that platform. But we all know with COVID, things change. And so that's when we decided to do this platform, the Athlete to Athlete series. And we wouldn't have been able to do it if it were not for our amazing sponsors. So one of them is Sports Turf. So a little memorabilia right there. So Sports Turf sponsored us to actually be able to do this. And through their support, we're able to do some giveaways. And so we're actually, at the end of this, if you stay on the entire time. We're going to do a giveaway of $500 to one school. And then also we have a sponsorship from Jobber Headphones. So we're going to be actually giving away a pair of headphones, but you have to stay on the entire time. We've done this a couple weeks now, and the winner a couple times has left early. So I'm telling you now, if you leave early and your name is called, you're not getting that prize. I'm going to give it to somebody else. I was nice the other weeks, but I'm not being nice anymore. Like, no more Mr. Nice Guy. So we're going to have to reward those who persevere all the way through. And this is going to be an exciting time. It's not going to be like you're in class or anything like that. So with our topic is recruiting, which, you know, for those of you all, I think this is the most athletes we've had on here so far. So that tells me a lot about what you all are interested in and what you all care about, as you should, because that's the next step in your career if you're a high school athlete, and one of the most important. I mean, I think about my high school career and just how challenging it was, you know, especially when you start. For me, as I'm sure is the case for you all, both my parents being immigrants, not knowing anything about football whatsoever. When it came to the recruiting process, I was pretty much on my own. So I remember, you know, you guys, some of y'all on here don't you know, even recall any of this, but having the DVDs, like I remember making my highlight video, putting it on the DVDs and going up to Auburn and going to Georgia and going to Georgia Tech and shaking that coach's hand and giving him that DVD and looking him in his eye. And you know, I was undersized for my position, so I had my Timberland boots on to give me 2 extra inches. And, you know, that was, I did whatever I could to separate myself. Somebody talk about VHS tapes. I went that, I didn't have no VHS tapes. We were DVDs by that time. But yeah, I had my Timberland boots. I had my hoodie on, and I was just trying to look big and got in the weight room and did whatever I had to do. And this is such an important topic, especially right now with COVID changing so many things around. So to discuss this topic and to give you all advice, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a coach, whether you're an AD, I brought on some folks from my network that I'm so excited to introduce. And the first person that I want to introduce, she's killing it. She's an expert in her field of recruiting. She helps so many athletes across different sports and has an amazing platform. And I actually met her through John Gordon, who's an amazing speaker, and he's all about building teams and really impacting, you know, other speakers out there, building other leaders. And so we were able to meet through his platform because he has actually like John Gordon certified speaker. So that's how I met her. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then I'm going to let her introduce herself as well. So Renee Lopez is a recruiting educator who has coached collegiate soccer for 14 years and has been honored as Coach of the Year by her peers as well. She also serves as an NCAA compliance director and is an expert in the college recruiting process, leadership training, and team culture development. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Renee Lopez. Renee, how you doing?
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you all.
Yes. And I forgot to mention one thing, that she's actually a Gator. And so we have this little thing on. I brought my red and black pom-poms out just for you. Oh, okay. I see you. So, yeah, we always get on each other. Don't say go Gators. I'm gonna kick. Who said go Gators? Brian.
Oh, Brian, we're friends now.
I'm gonna kick you out of here, Brian. If you say that again, I'm just kidding. But no, I'm glad to have you on. So just share with us a little bit about what you've been doing, and you know, during COVID, and your passion about recruiting.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I coached college for 14 years. I was D1 head coach, D2 head coach, NAI head coach. And, you know, I was honored to be able to go through that process and work with so many families for so long. Well, what I started to do actually, you know, about 2.5, 3 years ago, we started the process of actually kind of sitting around, how do we educate families and to really kind of think through how do we help them. And so what we did was actually interviewed 65 college coaches and athletic directors across 19 sports. And we did all different levels. And what that has turned into is a book called Looking for a Full Ride. And so what we've been doing during COVID is really trying to help families to really understand what the recruiting process is. We did many free webinars as well. You were a guest on one of mine, so at least I could do to come back. I appreciate the opportunity to come back and work with you guys. And we'll give you the opportunity, if they wait till the end, to hear how they can get a free coupon code too. So yeah. I'm honored to be here with you guys and help you guys through and answering questions that things have just been going on with COVID and how overwhelming it has been. And there's been so many changes, and we just want to be able to help you guys through that.
Awesome. Thanks, Renee. And yeah, you guys see her passion. She's extremely passionate about recruiting. She's one of the gurus that we have on tonight. And as she said, she has her book as well. So we're actually going to be doing a giveaway along with the Jobber headphones and the $500 giveaway if you stay the entire time. So yes, Renee Lopez, everybody. The next person I want to bring on is like a little brother to me, and he played a couple years after. I'm not sure how long it was after I got done at University of Georgia, but he's part of that RBU at University of Georgia, was highly recruited coming out, and really excited to have him on just to share about his experiences in the recruiting process. So Keith Marshall is a former UGA and Washington Redskins running back, and following his senior year in high school, Keith was named the North Carolina Gatorade Player of the Year after rushing for nearly 1,900 yards. And during a stellar career at University of Georgia, Keith was also named as SEC Freshman of the Week multiple times, among many other accolades, while sharing the backfield with Ty Gurley. So, this man grinded. It's not easy to get your shine on. We got Ty Gurley that you got to share carries with, but he did an amazing job, amazing career, and now is doing some successful things as well. So honored to have you on, bro. How you doing?
Doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited about what you're doing, giving back, and I think it's awesome. And I'm excited to kind of share my perspective with anybody who's willing to listen.
Definitely, man. And tell us a little bit about what you've been doing with the Corona.
Yeah, so actually last year I retired from football. So this year's really been a transition year for me. I'm back in school, getting an MBA, so trying to become a businessman. I've really been focused on that since Corona, so haven't really had the opportunity to get distracted and everything. I've just been really focused on kind of, what was ahead of me. So
that's dope, man. That's dope. Y'all heard it, man. He's a guy that's fresh out of the game, so he can give you a great perspective. And I hope you all will take the opportunity to connect with him after this. This is what we're about. Is a guy like Keith, a guy like myself, pouring it back into the next generation, really helping you guys to get to the place where we were able to get. We were all helped, right? We all had mentors. We all had people that poured into us. For me, it was guys like Thomas Davis. It was Ray Lewis. It was Jesse Tuggle. I mean, I had a lot of different mentors, and so it's an honor for us to be on here and to be able to share advice and tips and tools. So the last legend we got coming on, this guy, he's gonna be super humble, y'all, but this man is a legend coming on next. He is a recruiting expert, and his name is Dr. Gary Green. Doc, where you at? You still on there? Okay, there you are. There you are. All right.
Well, thank you very much
yes,
for that. Nice and very kind. It's a nice transition. I actually got into this because I've always mentored athletes at university, more on sort of life skills and professional skills.
Yeah.
But roughly 2 decades ago, I said to a coach that was a good friend of mine, why don't you examine recruiting in sort of a scientific method? And he said, well, how would I do that? And I said, I actually don't know.
Yeah.
2 years later, I developed a method, and since then I've worked with 50 teams. I've helped 7 teams get the #1 recruiting class in the US. I've worked with 17 different universities. And actually this year, I actually looked at how COVID was impacting athletes and how virtual recruiting is changing the face of recruiting. And so that's what I'm looking at right now.
Awesome, man. So yeah, I was gonna give you the grand entrance, but you took the stay. But I'll read out your bio, man, just so everybody kind of gets a understanding of your company and everything along with what you just said. So Dr. Gary Green founded Recreation Consulting to focus on understanding and improving the human dimension side of recruiting and athletic communication and retention. He provides expertise on participation trends, market segmentation of recruits, and analysis, among other items. And he's worked with, like he said, over 50 different teams in more than 15 universities. So, and I think I met you, Gary, when I was back finishing up my degree, my business degree and everything. And that was probably like, I think at the beginning of when I started, when I thought I was never going to get my degree.
I still have your signed book on my shelf.
Wow. Yeah, man. So we met, and it was like instant connection, just in terms of what he does. And I just think it's so interesting. And a guy who's full of so much knowledge, who's worked behind the scenes with a lot of your favorite teams. So he's an open book. He's somebody who's just a servant leader. And I just appreciate you being on tonight, man, and offering your expertise, because I know you're extremely busy and working on a million different things. I think you said you presented to Georgia Tech, the enemy.
I did this morning, yes, on virtual recruiting trends. Yes.
Wow, man. You can't, I don't know how I feel about you helping the enemy, but it's all good. All right. Well, we'll get going, and we have one more surprise guest coming on that's going to be on a little bit later, so I'll let y'all know. But we'll get started with the questions, and what I like to do is ask a direct question to each panelist, and then give them a chance to really showcase themselves and their expertise. And then after that, we're going to open it up to Q&A, and I'll have a few questions that'll be open to all the panelists. But overall, you guys can start posting in the chat area at that point, whatever your questions are. So as they're talking and answering their questions, I want you to think about what questions you have for them. So we'll get going with Coach Renee. So, Coach, we all know that COVID has impacted almost everything. So what are some of the ways that it has impacted the recruiting world, and what can athletes do to stay ahead of the game?
Well, I think it has definitely flipped recruiting upside down and definitely made some major changes. Like, Dr. Gary mentioned, obviously a lot of things have gone virtual, and lots of teams doing virtual visits and allowing recruits to be able to meet the team over Zoom. And, I've heard of some things where they'll do like a fun hat day and everybody wears a goofy hat, and that's what they get to know the team, and lots of different things. But I've also seen, especially for Division I, they have gone into a dead period until January 1st, which has definitely shifted some things when it comes to athletes trying to make decisions. And I think that has been the biggest thing that has happened. And so one of the things with that has turned into, well, does a student athlete still go to visit the school as a normal student and just do the normal campus tour, not meet with athletics, and usually get a list before you go from the coaches of things, make sure you see while you're there, making that shift? Or do you wait until January 1st and seeing if that's, that timeline works? And for some kids, it's also making decisions and committing just off of virtual tours. And I think it's really overwhelming for a lot of student athletes right now. But one of the biggest things that I'm telling student athletes that I work with is to make sure you have a broad spectrum of schools that you're looking at. Don't just throw all of your eggs in the Division I basket. Right now, Division II, NAI, Division IIIs, junior colleges, national Christian colleges, all these schools, as long as their area is open and the school is allowed to be open, you can go and visit. So you don't have restrictions in terms of what's going on with athletics in Division I level. So I think it's really important, especially for any 2021s who have not committed yet, obviously looking at the 2022s and younger ages, is get out to visit some of those other schools. Don't just dismiss it because of the level. And the idea is really take a broken leg test mentality. We're hearing about programs that are being canceled, unfortunately, especially in sports like men's soccer and tennis and, different sports like that, swimming and diving, we've seen quite a bit. And so the idea is we have to make sure that we're approaching a school and choosing a school, not just for athletics, but the bigger picture. Make sure you're choosing a school because it fits you academically, it fits you socially in terms of the size of the school, the location, where's the relationship to home and your family being able to travel to see you play, but also weather. That's a big deal. All of us who live in the South, we love our warm weather, but I heard it was 9 degrees in Denver this week. That's not my fun. So finding that idea, of perspective of, looking at the overall things that you need in order to choose a college and to make the best choice for you, not just because of the name of the university, but keep your options open and broad and be in communication with, I always say, starting with 20 to 30 schools. Don't just narrow it down to 3 or 4 schools thinking this is where you're going to go. Because unfortunately, with everything changing with COVID, and timelines and people committing and different situations, making sure that you're staying open to the options that are out there and opportunities that could be out there, and don't dismiss it just because of the name of the school or the division it is.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said about keeping that broad perspective of the schools you looked at. Another thing you mentioned was thinking about it from a bigger picture level. I know so many recruits that get caught up in the facilities, or they get caught up in like, oh, coach is texting me more than this other coach, and so I'm gonna go here. And we all know that can change in a heartbeat. Like a coach can up and get that next offer and he's gone. So whatever he told you is out the window. So I love what you said about that. Just really thinking about location, thinking about like you said, the atmosphere as far as the social atmosphere. Are you a big campus person, or do you thrive better in a smaller university, and then not getting caught up in the hype? So that's awesome. So now we'll move on to Keith. And Keith, I think this is a question that we all as like former athletes, we think about, right? Is that whole deal of if I knew what I know now. So the question I have for you is what was your recruiting process like, and what do you wish you would have done differently?
Yeah, man. So I was very fortunate. I started getting recruited fairly early in 10th grade, so it kind of it shot off immediately for me.
Mm-hmm.
And to thinking back, I don't necessarily have anything that I would change. My parents were very involved, made sure I stayed grounded and really considered things outside of just football. What I would consider, what I would encourage people who are looking to get recruited who maybe have a different path. My brother, some of my best friends kind of had a different route than I had, and just kind of like Renee was saying, make sure you're really not limiting yourself based on things like name and facility and kind of the things that don't really matter. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to get a free education, and that education is going to pay dividends down the road past whatever your athletic career it will end up. And so that's the things I would say take into consideration is the education that you'll be getting, as well as the network that you'll be becoming a part of, and what that would allow you down the road. I know Rennie can speak to that. I can speak to that now. Post my football career, the things that I was able to, I have access to now that really don't come from football, really come from being a part of that network. And that was something that I was cognizant of in the process, and it's really paying dividends. So I would encourage you guys to expand beyond just athletics.
I totally agree, man. Love that you shared about that. Just, I feel like a lot of us athletes, like you said, we get caught up in just the things that don't really matter in the long run. Like that education has got to be at the forefront. Thinking about your alumni, I tell athletes all the time, you got to think about where you're going to be living at 10 years, 15 years from now. If you're going to be in the state of Georgia, you're going to be in Florida, whatever. You really want to take that into consideration as you're choosing your school, because long term, if you're looking for a job, if you become a CEO and you need clients, like that's when it's going to really matter what school you chose. And so, before I get to you, Dr. Green, I want to introduce our special guest for the night, Mr. Kendall Milton. And he.
You doing?
Oh yeah, man. What's going on, bro? Good to see you.
Oh yeah, just finished up some Zoom for tutoring. So.
All right. Yeah, just got done with study hall and everything, which is something that all you young athletes will learn about when you get past that recruiting phase, and it's not as loving anymore. But I loved just having this moment right here, because Keith is a former running back, and now
yes, sir. Nice to meet you finally.
Nice to meet you too, man. I'm a big fan. I'm loving what you're doing so far.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
So.
Yeah, man. This guy, young guy's been killing it. He's part of the new RBU at University of Georgia, man. So met you what it was like summer. It was during the off season or something like that.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So
I think it might have been when I first got here towards then in January, February, around there.
Yeah.
Athens.
Yep, that's right, man. So yeah, I just wanted to have a quick conversation. We got a lot of young athletes on here, and you're fresh out the recruiting process, and you came from Cali, right?
Yeah, came from Cali.
Yeah, man. So just share a little bit about what your recruiting process was like, and then the transition from the recruiting to now, what that's been like.
I would say with recruiting, being blessed enough that I was one of those athletes that I received my first offer in the 8th grade. It came pretty early to me. So when that was basically got out the way, they started all flowing in, and I just had to focus on football and school and just keep everything in line, because all that extra stuff, if you let it get to your head, it could really throw things off course. Rearrange what's most important to you, rearrange what needs to get done first. So I just had to stay in my lane, stay in my track, and that's what made the process pretty easy.
Awesome, man. And is there anything you would have done differently, going through the recruiting process?
I wouldn't say anything differently. I didn't go to a bunch of camps. I was really just, play, in the season, then go to like the normal Nike camp, the Adidas camp, and that was pretty much it for me.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like the decisions I made, I feel like they're all good.
Oh, gotcha, man. And now that because we all know it's a different experience going through the recruiting process with being on that campus. So like what is life like now that you've gone through the recruiting process, or what are some of the things, the experiences you had early on after your recruiting process?
I would say football gets a whole lot more serious when you get to the college level. Football is basically kind of like a job type of thing, to where it's like really your life. they make like whatever schedule that they make for you, you have to follow it, no choices.
Mhm.
So I would say it just got a lot more serious. It took a lot of maturing to do. Especially coming across the country, it took a whole lot of maturing to do. But I would say as long as you just, be serious about it, be disciplined, listen to your coaches, it's an easy transition because, they help they give you tutoring for school. They make sure you have a plan of what you got to do for the week. So it's really an easy process. You just got to, stay disciplined to it.
Yeah. And the last question I have for you is, you're a guy who has been able to get on the field, man, pretty early, and you're having some success. So what are some of the things that you've done to really separate yourself, man, as a true freshman? I remember being in that time. I didn't get on the field until probably like the 8th game. I think it was like after the bye week. But when you got guys ahead of you and you're coming out, you're a highly touted recruit, man, I know that can be a head battle, right? And so what are some of the things that you did to really overcome that and maintain that focus?
I just play ball. I just play ball. Just do what I've been doing since I was, in kindergarten. Just play ball, have fun with it.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, man, Keith, you got any questions for the young buck?
Nah, man, I'm excited to see what he's gonna do. I'm very happy to finally meet you, man. You seem like a very down-to-earth kid. I think you're gonna have a great time at Georgia. My advice to you would be make sure you leverage, kind of like I was telling everybody else, leverage that network, man. Make sure you get in with the right people and treat people the right way, and the sky's the limit for you.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, man, love it. Y'all got to exchange numbers, man.
We'll link up.
Stay in contact, yeah. Because that's what this is about, man. We're part of a fraternity,
Back RBU.
Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. So, well, man, we ain't gonna keep you all night. I know you're tired. Good luck this Saturday.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Have a great night.
All right.
All right. That was awesome. So now we'll get to our next expert. So, Dr. Gary, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see high school athletes and their parents make when it comes to the recruiting process?
So actually, Renee and actually Keith both touched upon this, and that is looking at programs beyond athletics. I asked about 1,000 athletes in the spring of this year, freshman and sophomore, what was the biggest struggle for them? Mental health, staying motivated, being accountable, and not feeling isolated. So when you're asking these coaches, yes, they're going to have a lot of the same facilities, but ask them particularly what are the resources available to student athletes to, one, help them stay motivated, two, help them stay accountable, and to avoid them feeling isolated, because we're all hoping there's going to be seasons, but what happens if there isn't seasons? And for the first time, a lot of these young men and women are no longer student athletes, they're just students. And that's a different mindset for them. So ask the coaches and ask the academic advisors, what are they doing beyond normal to help athletes stay involved? Ask head coaches, how are they continuing to motivate and communicate with their athletes during this long off season? What is it they're doing in terms of frequency of communication? What are they doing to keep their students engaged and motivated? Because athletes know how to overcome obstacles. They can be stronger, they can be faster. What they're not used to doing is just sitting in their dorms, being isolated on Zooms. So how do you engage those young men and women? And so they can actually get past that. And that's what I've learned is that's the biggest obstacle, is asking that. And to touch on Renee's point, do a site visit, because you may not get to do a site visit. And the feel for campus, the feel for the energy on campus, where you're going to be living, get a feel for the city, understand that dynamic, that's crucial to you, because you might end up moving there and never visited. And so I think doing a site visit is crucial for everybody, and they should do it, whether it's official or not.
No, that's great, man. I love what you said about that engagement, and especially in this environment now, like that's something a lot of people and just teams haven't really talked about, is how they're dealing with mental health. I mean, like athletes have just kind of been like throughout that whole period of spring practice and all those things, you really didn't hear much. And I know that was going on, especially with all the things that were going on in our nation, just with social injustice and all those things. Like these are affecting a lot of these athletes' homes and their communities that they're from. And it's not like they can just act like it doesn't exist and just be out on the field and just, you can only escape for so long until it really impacts you. So you're exactly right. How do they engage? How do the coaches create those safe spaces for them to be able to express themselves? What are they doing for them outside of football? That is such, or outside of their sport. Because I know we got other people on here, but yeah, that is such a great point, man. And like I said, staying motivated, because not everybody goes and is like Kendall, right, and gets on the field right away. So what do they do for their athletes who are second string? Do they continue developing them, or do they become a non-factor? That's another, I feel like, super important question that you want to ask that coach. And you might even want to ask, that second string player that's already there. Go on Instagram and find them, right? Go on the team website, find who that person is. It's like, hey, what's your experience like? How does coach treat you? That you're second string, you're third string. I saw that you were number one coming out, but I see things didn't really pan out. You got hurt. So are they treating you any differently? That's something important that you want to know.
I mean, all athletes, recruits should speak to existing athletes and ask them hard questions. What's good? What's the bad? And what's the ugly? And we can all live with the good. We can sometimes live with the bad, but what you really want to know is, can you live with the ugly?
Mm-hmm. That's real. Can you live with the ugly? Because 4 years is a long time, but and then you got to live with whatever decision you make. It has ripple effects, right? So you're exactly right, Gary. Awesome. Well, let's get to our Q&A. So we had one question so far, and I'm going to give the question to the person that it was directed to, and then anybody else can feel free to chime in as well. So first question is from Kanye Gardner, and this is for Coach Renee. So what suggestions do you have to educate parents to help influence the choice that their athlete makes, especially when they're undecided with their major?
Well, it's a great question. I think I put into the chat a Facebook group that I run about 13,000 parents, and coaches that are in there. So I can do a little bit further of conversation about this down the road. But I think, it's important for you to emphasize, the first list of the schools that you start contacting and reaching out to are going to be making sure that they are a good fit for a couple of areas that you think you may want to study. So let's say you think you may want to go to science or business, something like that. Make sure that they have those programs. Now, if you're going to get really specific when you're contacting coaches and say, I want to go to marine biology or electrical engineering, something like that. Now, obviously, you have to make sure the schools are going to be able to offer that, especially when you're undecided. But I think also being able to speak with the coaches and figure out what types of academics opportunities they have to explore your careers at the school. Each school is different how they support their athletes. You will find a whole gamut of different things that happen at some schools and don't happen at others. And so you need to really definitely explore that. But I think, as a parent, just making sure that you emphasize the education part of it, because, I know Rennie can speak to this. I can speak to this as well, as, injuries happen, and you may get in a situation where you may have to end your career because of injuries, whether that's in college or in pros or something like that. The fact is, we're all going to end our career at some point in time. So, but your education is going to stay with you for life. And so we need to make sure that priority is being emphasized to your student athletes. So definitely encourage you as a parent to keep that focus.
Awesome. Love it.
I'd like to add one thing to that. And this is a simple thing, and it works so well. If you think you want to be an engineer, or if you think you want to be a chemist, even at high school, then find someone that is an engineer, or find someone that is a chemist, and just call them up and ask them, I'm thinking of this as a career in college. What is it like on a daily basis? What do you like? What do you don't like? What do you wish you'd known going into this field? It always surprises me that people want to be these jobs and they work for it and they get a degree and then realize this isn't the job I thought it was. So find someone that's doing it already and ask the questions.
That's real.
Absolutely.
And I was going to add something too, if that's cool. Just a little personal experience, kind of what Renee was talking about. There's a lot of things that could pop up that are unforeseen, like injuries or other situations. And just thinking back my experience, I had a really, really strong freshman year. I was looking like I was going to be a high round draft pick and all those things. And I ended up tearing my ACL, MCL, PCL my sophomore year. And I didn't get to play for 2 years. And ultimately the ability to, study finance, that's what really kind of bridged that gap for me. And now, going to the league, I kind of dealt with, the ramifications of those injuries and in my career. But, because I, in college, was very cognizant about what I wanted to study long term and set myself up that way, I landed on my feet. So I think that is something that's extremely important. I know everybody's plan A is athletics, but you never know what could happen. It's literally one play. So just make sure you're very, very strategic how you position yourself.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Great. Such great advice. I hope that answers your question, Kanye. And the next question we have, and we've gotten this question a lot, and I know this is something on a lot of athletes' minds, and has to do with the timing of the recruiting. And so I'm going to bring you on, Thomas. I'm going to allow you to talk and ask your question, so you get to do a little bit of public speaking tonight. We're going to bring everybody on from this point on, so you can ask the panelists your question. So you're on, Thomas. How you doing? Thomas, you there? Maybe it's this one. Hello, Thomas? Thomas Warren? All right, Thomas, you a little shy?
I'm a little shy too, man.
It's all right. Well, I will read your question then, Thomas. So he said, I got started late on recruiting. Summer camps got canceled. So how do I get noticed quickly? What's the best strategy to follow? And he's a senior. And there's a few other people who've asked about that. Is 11th grade, another anonymous person asks, is 11th grade too late to get recruited? So what are y'all's thoughts on that as far as the timing of recruiting? Can they still get opportunities, or is it, should they go just another route, focus on academics?
I can go on this. I think it depends. The reality is there's a lot of things that are shifting in, especially in the ability for the university to have players returning in extra year, which has jumbled up a little bit of rosters and such. And this varies depending what level we're talking about. So I'm just going to say it in general, but that most of the time there is an option for a coach to bring a player back. And that, let's say they were graduating out 10 seniors, maybe they're only going to bring back 3, or maybe they're going to bring back 10, or maybe they're not bringing any. And so the implications of what that looks like is going to be different at every school. And, I think one of the things is you to do is you need to be proactive. Do not sit back and think that college coaches are going to come knocking on your door. I love the movie The Blind Side, but everyone sees all these college coaches just knocking on the guy's door. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You need to make sure that you are in a situation that you're being proactive, contacting coaches via email, connecting, following them on social media and things like that. If you want to play, make it a priority that you're reaching out to those coaches, sending film, whatever you have, even if it's 2 years ago film, that's what you have, that's all you can have, use it, or create some film in your backyard with a couple of teammates or something, depending on what your situation is. But I think you have to be proactive, if you really want this, and make sure, like I said earlier, make sure you're looking across all levels, and don't just contact 5 schools, but 20 to 30 across all different levels, and be open to exploring what those may look like. And again, obviously prioritizing everything academically as well.
Awesome. Anybody else want to add anything?
I will add, do your research, find out what type of coaches you're contacting, what is their style of coaching, what is it you like about them, so that when you are contacting them, even if it's abroad, you can actually say something about them, about that coach, that is real about that coach. The fact that you've done your due diligence and learned about that coach or learned about that program shows that actually you have more than just a passing interest. The other thing to remember is that there are many athletes right now are even considering taking a year off. So because of what's happening.
True.
So coaches don't really know what they will have or what they won't have. And so with this idea that some athletes might take a year out, then there's going to be opportunities. So again, I agree with Renee completely. Seize the opportunities, but do your due diligence and find out about the programs and the coaches.
Good advice. Pete, you got anything you want to add?
I think they covered it. I think they covered it. We can move on to the next question.
Great. Okay. Let me see here. This is a good question. I just from Thomas again. All right, we'll come back to Thomas's question since he already got one answer. But he asked about social media, which I think was a really good question. Like, how important is using Twitter or any social media to connect with coaches? Do they even look? Do they notice? Or is it a waste of time? I think that's a great question.
When I was coming up, it was different, so I really don't have an answer for that. They weren't allowed to contact us,
Right.
you know, so I don't know what they're doing now.
It is very much driven by social media at this point, especially in a sport like football, baseball, even in basketball, that Twitter is often used in terms of contacting. However, I think the other bigger picture about social media is that college coaches are looking at your social media, not just about your X's and O's and your ability and what your vertical is or anything like that, or what your 40 is.
Yep.
They're actually looking at your character. They're using social media as an avenue to figure out who you are, and that you're not going to end up on the front page of the newspaper by doing something stupid. And I think what you can show, you know, if we look and we say athletes that are people that excel and great leaders, they are always focused on being an athlete. Well, you're still an athlete, even if you're not playing right now. What are you showing on your social media? What are you showing that you're still doing? You know, is it workout with 2 or 3 friends or whatever your area allows? You know, are you in the weight room? You know, what are you doing in order to make sure that you're pushing yourself to be better, and showing that maybe it's also reading a book, you know, and helping yourself get to the next level. You know, so I think the idea is we have to utilize social media, not just for getting seen in terms of videos. You can always send an email to a college coach that way, but they want to know that you're a good kid, and they're trying to find out every possible way to do that. Not only just by asking coaches and people, but they want to look at social media and say, you know what, I can see that you're making the right steps in your life as opposed to making bad decisions on Saturday night.
That's great advice. And I mean, one thing I add too, just to piggyback off of that, is not just about when you recruit that social media account matters. You know, it's about when you're going to that pro level as well too, and that matters even more, because then you're talking about dollar signs, like. So I mean, they have, like, literally, I tell athletes this all the time anytime I get the opportunity to speak, but these teams literally have people who are former FBI, like, that look up like all the way back to what you were posting in elementary school in some cases. Like, they want your whole behavioral report, like everything. So don't think like if you've done something and you're hanging out with your friends and y'all are, you know, bullying or whatever, like, that's not going to come back up. Trust me, it will. It will. And it may not be social media. It may be that coach who you don't like. It may be the lunch lady or the janitor that they talk to, because they get everything. So take care of your brand. Like, you are a brand. So understand that and protect it at all costs, because it doesn't matter how hard you work or how many plays you make if you have a horrible brand and it's inconsistent as far as what people say about you. So, yeah.
So,
that's what I add.
interestingly enough, I've worked for some NFL teams doing exactly that, actually profiling athletes based upon their social media, because that's what I used to do in a different life with the British government. I was trained as a profiler. And so that's a big thing right now. And the other thing to remember is just because you delete it from social media doesn't mean it's gone. It can be found very, very easily. And so I agree with both your comments is you have a brand, it takes a lifetime to build it, and you can lose it in a second.
That's it. I told y'all, Gary, you're a legend. I didn't even know you did that. Oh, man. Okay. And somebody actually says a follow-up question to that, like, what social media is the best platform?
I can tell you now, most coaches are following Twitter.
Right.
That's the one that's going up. Facebook, really, no one's really paying much attention to it. Twitter is the main one that everyone's using right now.
Awesome. And then just as a follow-up question to the question we asked earlier about athletes who start late, on the other side of that, those who are curious about when to start, like on the early side, like, what do you guys suggest as far as starting, and what are some things that they can do to stick out and separate themselves early on in the recruiting process?
Yeah, so I could tackle this one. I started off early, like 8th grade is when I really decided, you know, I wanted to pursue collegiate football scholarship, and I really locked in, made sure everything about my life from an academic standpoint, from how I was training, everything was geared towards being able to achieve that. So I think, that requires obviously sacrificing some maybe social things, or you not being able to do some of the things that your counterparts are doing that don't have the same dreams. But if you want to start, if it's a goal of yours, it's never too early to start. It's a lot of people that have the same dreams, and so ultimately, whoever can work the hardest is gonna be what separates you.
That's awesome. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
Well, I was actually just putting into the chat, make sure you know the rules for your sport of when a coach can contact you. You can always contact a coach. That's really important for you to know. On my website, I'll put it into the chat. You can download the basic D1 rules and the basic D2 and D3 rules, knowing that you understand when a coach can respond to your emails versus them just saying, per NCAA rules, we can't speak with you. You can always fill out a recruit questionnaire, and you can always send film and videos. And, keeping those updates going, even if the coaches can't really actually respond to you besides saying, principal rules, we can't speak to you, knowing and understanding what that means is they're acknowledging they got your information, but also making sure that, you have coaching recommendations as well and personal recommendations. And when you see them start to follow you on social media, that's a good sign too.
Awesome. Okay. And this is another great question from Joshua Garza. I'm gonna give him the ability to talk. Let's see if Joshua will be able to talk. Joshua, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. There we go. You're not shy. All right, man. So you can go ahead and ask your question that you had earlier.
Yeah, I was just wondering if on making a video, what is the format as far as should the bio be first, or the training be first, or the game footage? What format should a footage have?
It's a good question.
So I've asked coaches this question, and the one thing I want to know first, particularly it's changed because of COVID. What they want to know is, what are you like as a person? So you appearing first and actually being as close to that camera as possible, so they get your energy and get your personality. Because one of the things they're looking for right now beyond sport is actually, are you resilient? Do you feel you're well-rounded? And, beyond the sport. So sharing your life, sharing your interests beyond the sport is really important. And then actually watching you training, and then a highlight reel at the end. Because seeing you training individually allows them to see far more when they're trying to pick you out from a crowd.
And as far as the highlight tape portion, make sure you put your best plays up front, because these guys are shuffling through, hundreds of prospective athletes. So, you want them to catch their eye early.
That's good advice.
I was just speaking with a Division II head coach this last week, and she said to me, very, very prominent Division II lacrosse program. She said, I asked her, hey, how are things going? She says, I don't know. I just got 20 emails from recruits, and it's only 2 p.m. She goes, the kids aren't even out of school. She goes, that's from just last night for her going to bed at midnight, and then that morning. And then she goes, and the kids aren't even out of school yet. And so this was 2 p.m. She goes, I'll have another 20 to 30 by midnight tonight. And so understanding that you want to be concise in your information, give them what they need, make their job easier, give them GPA, give them your test scores. If you have them, I know that's a whole other ball game situation with a lot of tests being canceled, but the idea is making sure that you are helping these coaches get what they need quickly and not have to keep coming back to you to ask for more information. Instead, give them what they need early on, and that film is very key part of it too. And don't hide your GPA if it's not, don't lie about it. Make sure that you're not lying on your numbers, lying on your height, everything like that. Be straight with them. They want it to be straight.
I thought about lying a couple times. Oh man! And then Josh, you had one other question I thought was really great for everybody else who's on right now, involving college summer camps. So can you ask that one as well?
Oh yes, yeah. So my daughter goes to Texas A&M camps, which this year was actually canceled, but it is pretty pricey to go to these camps. But it does put her in front of the coaches and assistant coaches, So is it worth going and paying that money to put her in front of them?
That's a good question because y'all know how many showcase camps and this and that they have every year. So I think this is an extremely important question.
So I'll let Renee and Gary talk to it a little deeper, but I can tell you that when I was at school, those camps are a revenue source, and so it's not necessarily that she's going to get real exposure. Some of those they're making money off the camps as well, so that's something to be cognizant of.
And you need to remember that many of these programs lost a lot of money over the past 7-8 months, and so there are going to be a lot of camps that start happening. Just because you get a camp invite does not mean they're recruiting you. I think it's really important to see where you're at in the process with them. Have you spoken to a coach already? If you're allowed to at this point with your sport and the rules at the level. Have they shown interest by contacting your high school coaches, your club coaches, your travel teams, whatever it may be? So be cautious. When you see a camp has 600 people attending, that's not a recruiting camp. You see that's maybe 50 to 75 kids are coming. That is a recruiting camp, typically often called an ID camp. Usually a lot of times that's a 1-day camp, as opposed to don't go to a 5-day, 7-day camp. Instead, go to the shorter camps if you can. And I have a feeling we're going to see a ton of them if the dead period ends after January 1st. You're going to see a ton of them in January and February happening. So just remember, just because you've been invited doesn't mean they're recruiting you. So make sure that you're cautious about, and selective of what schools you're going to.
I agree with Coach Renee. Spot on.
Awesome. So much great advice and great value. I hope you all are taking notes because this is great. Joshua, thanks so much for your question, man.
Oh, yeah, thank you guys.
All right. So we have time for one more question, and then we are going to get to announcing our winners. So this is tough. All right, so Brett, we're gonna bring on Mr. Brett Chalker. Brett, how you doing?
Hey.
Hey, you had a question for our panelists, so you go ahead and let them know your question.
Hey, I had a recruit who actually went to Georgia named Jordan Davis. Tell me that he played around a little bit his 9th grade year, and his junior year he was having to play sort of catch up with his SAT and academics and stuff. So I was just wondering, how important is that 9th grade year academically to get started off on the right foot or to be recruited and to be noticed?
Great question.
So I guess, it's kind of what we've touched on, some of you guys have touched on already is, academics that kind of can speak towards your character. So I say, get on that very early. If the coaches are screening you and they see, you have a high GPA, that's one less thing they have to worry about, through the recruiting process and once you get to campus. So I think you should always be very, very, take that very seriously.
Well, and you also need to make sure that, you are tracking with them what their grades are and their GPAs and their core courses GPA. For those who don't know, if you are going to play Division I or Division II, NCAA, or if you're going to go play in the NAI, they also have an eligibility center. Both of them are separate eligibility centers. And there is specific core courses that they will judge for your eligibility in terms of GPA. So you need to make sure that you are evaluating the core courses at your high school and that your GPA is going to meet standards that you need to initially be eligible, because, believe it or not, just because you graduate from high school does not mean you're automatically eligible to play. And so you need to make sure that you're tracking those things, and you can see all that information on the Eligibility Center, NCAA Eligibility Center page, website.
I think the other thing is have a plan. So if someone comes to you and says, I didn't do well in this class because this was a bad class for me, then tell them what your plan is and how are you going to get better. Are you going to get a tutor? Are you going to get a mentor? Even if you graduated, show them some sort of plan where you're going to make up for what you did wrong.
Good. Really good. Brett, thanks so much for your question.
Appreciate it. You're welcome.
Yes, sir. All right, we got so many great questions, but unfortunately, we are out of time. But that means that you will have an opportunity to reach out to our panelists afterwards, join their communities, follow them, all that good stuff. And so we're going to close out with some, final thoughts from our panelists, and then we're going to announce who the winners are for this week. So kick us off, Coach Renee, final thoughts, and then how can our audience follow you?
Well, I think don't give up. I think a lot of people get so frustrated in the process. Don't think that just because they said no, that means you're not talented, but the idea is it's just not the right fit. You're looking for the right fit overall, academically, athletically, socially, and geographically as well. So I always tell people, I keep a bottle of a WD-40 next to my desk, and I talk about this with a lot of people because for those who don't know, WD-40 helps loosen up doors. If you're an engineer, you'll understand this, and things like that. It makes things that are squeaky, make them not be squeaky. But WD-40, the reason it exists and is WD-40 is because it took them 40 tries in order to find the right formula that worked. So I encourage you to keep your WD-40 nearby you, because even if you get frustrated along the way, it's going to be something that you need to just have that perspective. It's finding the right fit. It's not just necessarily that this pigeonhole yourself into this one university. So I'll put in the chat my information, but you can find my book if you're interested. Again, we interviewed 65 college coaches and athletic directors across 19 different sports, across all different levels. And my book is lookingforafullride.com, And tonight we are giving out a coupon code. If you purchase by tonight, you can use the coupon code Halloween and you'll get free shipping. So Halloween is the coupon code. I will put this all in the chat as we move on. You can also reach me at email at info@lookingforafullride.com, info@lookingforafullride.com. Otherwise, you can follow me on social media with Looking for a Full Ride, and also put some of that information in the chat. Hope you guys connect with us, especially if you're a parent or coach or athletic director. Definitely join our community of Facebook group, educating parents of high school student athletes on the college recruiting process. So I'll put all this in the chat, and it's great to have an opportunity to speak with you all tonight.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Coach. And you all heard it. You guys can get in touch with her through her Facebook community. She's going to post that in the chat area. And extremely knowledgeable, as you all can see. And I really, really appreciate her being on tonight. Next, we got Keith. So Keith, man, final thoughts and how everybody can get in touch with you as well.
Yeah, to echo much of what Renee said, I just want to encourage you guys. I know it's a tough time right now. Things are more difficult than usual. Just stay at it, stay persistent, pursue your dreams, obviously. And also, if it doesn't work out the way you want it to, I know a lot of great players who had great careers and went to college as walk-ons and ended up earning scholarships. So, if you really love your sport, there's other opportunities beyond just getting a scholarship. So don't close yourself off to those opportunities either. And if you want to follow me, I have a Twitter. I'll throw it in the chat. I'm not quite as active on social as some other people, but I'll throw that in the chat for you.
Got to get on that, man. Come on.
I know.
All right. Dr. Gary Green, the legend, closes out, man.
So I concur with both Keith and Renee. The thing that I would add is think beyond the athletics, think about the academics, think about your mental health, think about the services beyond your sport that any team or university can do for you. Because right now, those services are as important, if not more than important, than what they can do for you as an athlete. So think long term, because eventually we will get through this. There will be a new normal. It will be a different normal. But either way, you got to take care of yourself, self-maintenance, mental health, accountability, motivation. So pay attention to that. And I put my email in there, and I'll put my Twitter in there as well.
Love it. All right. So you heard from our panelists their final thoughts and how you can get in touch with them. Now it's an important time. It's time for the awards. Drum roll. So our first winner, who gets Renee's book, there it is, Looking for a Full Ride. It's going to give you all the tools and tips and techniques you need to master this process. And that prize is going to go to Mr. Joshua Gars. Congrats, Joshua, on winning the book. So make sure you reach out to us afterwards or leave your email address in the chat area, and we will get that out to you. The next winner, let me make sure she's still on. Because if you're gone, okay, you're still on. You're safe. All right. So our next winner for tonight of the $500 prize, and this is going to go to Gina Churchwell, academic coach for Glenn Academy. So you can give that to any team you want. I'm assuming you're going to share it and not keep it all yourself. So, yeah, congrats on that. Leave us your email or contact us, and we will get that out to you. The next winner of the Jobber headphones, you're going to love these. And so the headphones winner is Mr. Thomas Warren of Mary Persons High School in Forsyth, Georgia. Thomas, congratulations. And yeah, we appreciate you being on. With that being said, guys, I'm so honored that you all have chosen to join us tonight. Thank you so much once again for being on the Athlete to Athlete series. This is week 6. We're going to come back next week again, same time, same place, wherever you are. And we're going to be talking about leadership next week. And we got some exciting guests, so make sure you stay tuned and look out for our panelists. We got a very, very exciting guest, a guy by the name of John Gordon, who's an amazing leader. So you definitely want to make sure you're on for this, because it's, Renee's got his book, of course. I got all his books, Power of Positive Leadership. He's written tons of books. I think he has about 12 books on leadership. So you're looking to improve your leadership abilities, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a coach, whether you're an AD, it really doesn't matter. He'll have something. And then we have some other panelists who will be joining as well. And last but not least, once again, my name is Rennie Curran. I'm a former professional athlete, keynote speaker, author, and the CEO of Game Changer Coaching. This has been the Athlete to Athlete series. Once again, we talked about recruiting tonight. Hope you all gained amazing just insights, and make sure that you reach out to our panelists. You can reach out to me as well. You can get in touch with me through my website, renniecurran.com, through social media as well, on Instagram. Everything's at Rennie Curran. Hope to hear from you all. And that being said, thank you again. Good night. God bless. And go Dogs. Go Dogs. That's right.